Moving forward, though, we got a quick topic. I don't think we'll go too long on this, but it's worth mentioning. And Joe, you weren't here earlier, but I'll restate this. I think Tenet is the movie we as a collective have talked the most about, but 2/3 of this show hasn't seen it. We have talked.
Just like 2/3 of America.
The archives. I need to go look at the archives. I need to go look at the archives and see how many videos and topics we've done that are Tenet centric.
It's not our fault, though.
No, it's not.
This was the movie that the film industry was ride or die, and it was die.
And as soon as it went out on the streets, I said, "Oh, you know what? It could die.
It could die. You know what? It's all right." But we talked a ton about Tenet this past summer. And the funny part is really only one of us, Joe, saw it. And the stories around Christopher Nolan's Tenet overtook the movie itself. It was put in an impossible position, whether you like Nolan or not, whether you like Tenet or not. It was put in an impossible position to be judged as the savior for movie theaters while simultaneously being judged as the barometer to see if the public felt comfortable going to the movie theater during a global pandemic of a contagious virus. And ultimately, I never really broke down the domestic box office numbers too intently after the first couple weeks. It did not fare well in America, though. It did not fare well in America. It somehow legged it to 350 million worldwide. And we can go on and talk about it. I thought it was stupid and first to bank the future of movie theaters on a $200 million convoluted movie with no star appeal really whatsoever outside of the director. I thought that was kind of a misguided thing.
And an original IP, too. Not based on anything. No comic, no show, not a remake, not a sequel.
100%. And I get why no studio was really willing to release a movie during this time and take the L back in July or August. But you know what? Mulan or Black Widow would have been far better barometers. Would have been far better barometers to see if people would really venture out, as opposed to this, which I guarantee, if I offered the public $20 and I went up to somebody random on the street, name me two people in the movie Tenet, I don't think they could do it.
Christopher and Nolan.
Yes, exactly. That's probably what they would say. But Tenet made $350 million worldwide, and Christopher Nolan spoke publicly about it for the first time in really months. The movie's coming to video on demand and DVD, I think, next month, and we will review it on the show at long last. We are scheduled to review Tenet next month, so we will get to that. But as far as Christopher Nolan is concerned, what he had to say about it, he said studios are drawing, quote unquote, the wrong conclusions about its performance. In so many words, to paraphrase, he says that studios need to look at where Tenet did well and build off of that momentum. How I gather from his statement is he's kind of saying that Hollywood is has been kind of doom and gloom with the theatrical, the state of theatrical movie going in times of the pandemic. They're not looking at where Tenet performed well or did well, and maybe they're not consolidating drive-ins as much or so. That's kind of the vibe.
Are those a big factor? I know, culturally and the amount of exposure of talk. But in terms of the numbers,
several times. I'm just saying, I read this quote several times, and sometimes Nolan's words are about as convoluted and as hard to parse as his movies. Yeah. But that was the takeaway, is the wrong conclusion. Sorry to talk over you there.
No, that's fine. I'm just curious, if you knew off the top of your head how much the drive-ins really were making. I guess that's the mystery, is that we don't know, because the numbers just there's no infrastructure for this kind of thing. Right, because it's such an idea, and I do wonder if the drive-in movies are the magic silver bullet that everyone talks about but doesn't really do anything, right? So in that sense, I'm just a little perplexed, but I guess I guess I'm hijacking this now.
Go for it.
It was just completely foolhardy to think that this should be your true, this is the hill you die on. This is the horse you ride in on, to glory and to battle. But it's dumb for any investor, any exec to think that would have been it. I guess, well, actually, from a very nefarious point of view, this might have been the perfect one to sacrifice to the lambs, because you can still bank your Fast and Furious, you can still bank your Star Wars, you can still bank your Black Widow and all that stuff. Didn't bank Mulan, but in terms of I guess which one to sacrifice, I guess Tenet was the one to do, especially now that the coronavirus, at this moment here on November 11th, Veterans Day, the coronavirus is as worse as it has ever been in the United States. It is worse than it was in March, worse than the summer. 140,000 new cases a day. I don't want to, today, actually, that was the report from, I think, NPR, I forget. But, I don't want to be a doomer, but, it's only going to get worse from here. So the movie industry really has to step up and learn. And I would love to know. The behind the scenes, and like to be the fly on the wall of that boardroom talk or conference call, to think like where Nolan was like, yeah, I guess we're doing this. Either two options. Either one, he was like, okay, I guess we're doing this, or two, it was like, I can do this. And I can't tell, right? That's some real insider shit. But I can't tell which one it was for him. Because if it was the latter, where he was like thinking he could save the industry on his work, I'm like, you're a freaking idiot, dude. I'm sorry. You make excellent films, but like this was not smart. I don't know if that's some Hollywood head up your ass kind of stuff, of which is an epidemic in. Epidemic in Hollywood overall, or even this show where we think we can make hot takes. But for Nolan, I think partially part of the blame has to fall on him. I don't know, Joe.
Man,
I threw a lot at you. That was a lot of
I know.
different angles. Sorry.
I'll go with this because it is kind of like also focusing on, rebuilding the business of going to the movies and everything. And this guy in the comment section of this Collider article also brings this up as well. But
he's an expert.
Yeah. For me, I do look at this as they are drawing the wrong conclusions. Studios are, and that if we wait, I'm sure the movie going experience could come back. Will it be the same? No. I don't think it's going to be the same after this. I think we are going to see like what A24 did with Apple TV Plus, since we just got done talking about a movie they released with them. I think that might just be their avenue from here on out, depending on how it's looking. Unless if they have something like Uncut Gems that they know will make a ton of money at the box office compared to most of their films that they release.
Something that will fare well, yeah.
Yeah, this came out in the holiday season. It did well at the box office compared to like Good Time, The Lighthouse, and Midsummer, which, I don't think cracked like 20 million. To me, I do think we're going to see now that like bigger theatrical movies, big blockbusters will be the ones that come to theaters, ones with bigger stars, the big dramas, the quote-unquote Oscar bait films will go to the theaters, while we'll have the smaller stuff come to Netflix and the streaming service. I think that's just how this whole business is going to go from here on out. And it does suck that Tenet was the experimental child for this. Go on, Dom.
I was going to say, this is how cinema becomes art again. All your Fast and Furious, all your stars and wars, that you relegate that to the silver screen. Here on is that silver screen is TV, right?
Yeah, silver screen.
Yeah, silver screen TV. Yeah, you delegate that to the small boxes. In cinema, we save it for things like Uncut Gems and Respect, and On the Rocks. I don't
know. Now, you could always do. What tons of these movies have been doing, even before the pandemic, that have gone to streaming services, such as because you have to have the stupid rule of it has to have a 2-week theater run and whatnot before it can be considered Oscars. So stuff like The Irishman, where it is on Netflix and you can watch it there. But for people like us that love to see these kind of movies on the big screen, I would love to if it has this 2-week run that you can go see it at an AMC. You probably have to go to some of those theaters in AMC, a Music Box, like if you're from Chicago. stuff like that, where it's more local, or like those big chain, like huge chain theaters, which I don't know. We'll see how AMC's doing after this pandemic as well. Yeah, I mean that's how I've been looking at it, and yeah, it is. As I was about to get back onto Tenet as the experimental child of this, it was the weird choice, but also the right choice at the same time, because if people would go see Tenet because of the name that's attached to it and the fact that it's a big blockbuster and we haven't had it in so long, if people actually went out to see it, then I guess sending out Fast and Furious, Black Widow, Mulan would have been safe, but we saw how that went.